an extra second really quick. Okay, you are live.
I'd like to call to order the regular governing board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District, May 27, 2020, and the time is 7:02 p.m. Can we please get members present?
Clayton Koo.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Maybell Monio.
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai is absent. And Shaquille Ali.
Here. All right, we will ask Mr. Vidales to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gladly, I'll ask for Ms. Joyner to share the picture of the flag. There we go. Repeat after me, or repeat with me. I pledge allegiance, flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for
which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the governing team will review the governance team meeting guidelines. And for this, you can give me a thumbs up that you're ready. I see 1, 2, 3, okay. And Mr. Vidal should be ready. Before we approve the agenda, we need to table item 9B.
Could you repeat that? 9 what?
B as in boy.
B? Okay.
Yes. COVID operations written report. And the reason is that this item needs to be approved on the same day as the budget. This is in lieu of the LCAP. So if we remove that item, do we have anyone who will make a motion
to approve the agenda with the omission?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thumbs up. Any opposed? Nay. Unanimous. Now we will have a public hearing. Item 6A. Public hearing for 2020-2021 AFT local number 3267 contract proposal. A public hearing will be held to receive public input on the AFT local number 3267 contract proposal for the for the 2020-2021 school year. AFT is proposing to open negotiations on Article 2, wages, Article 6, health and welfare, Article 7, leave provisions, and a memorandum of understanding regarding substitute coverage for IEP prep and meetings. So we will start the public hearing at 7:05.
Mr. Ali, we do not have any speaker cards for this item.
All right. So we will close the public hearing at 7:06. Item 6B, public hearing for Jefferson Elementary School District's counter proposal to AFT local number 3267. A public hearing will be held to receive public input on the Jefferson Elementary School District's counter proposal to AFT local number 3267 for the 2020-2021 school year. JESD is proposing to reopen negotiations on Article 2, wages, Article 3, hours of employment, and Article 6, health and welfare. So we will start this public hearing at 7:07. And any public comment?
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
All right, so we will end this public hearing at 7:08. Item 7A, board member acknowledgements and commendations. And this time we will start with Ms. Manuel.
I just wanted to say it's good to see you all tonight. I'm glad that you're all here. I also wanted to commend our graduating 8th graders. This will probably be the last time we meet before they leave our district. And I wanted to say congratulations to our graduating 8th graders. You did a great job. I think going through what we went through this last part of your final year with our district was definitely interesting. And it's been amazing how you all coped and dealt with the situation and all of the issues that arose with it. We're sad to see you go. I hope you all visit us sometime again soon, and good luck with your years in high school, and know that we're always here for you if you need us. I also actually wanted to, and I don't know if this is the right place for it, but I wanted to see if we could have a discussion, or at least preempt the discussion on our surplus land, and see if we can get back to that topic about what we're doing and which pieces of parcels are actually considered surplus. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Manuel, Mr. Ali and I will take that topic and look at our calendar, meeting calendar, and schedule that for an upcoming meeting.
Great, thank you.
All right, Ms. Weller.
I also wanted to congratulations to all our graduates, and it's a shame that we can't have the same kind of graduations that we always had, but they're in our, our hearts, our prayers, and our congratulations for doing a great job in our district. And hopefully we will be able to have some time at some place where we're going to be able to acknowledge them even greater than what we can do on the internet. Other than that, I just want to especially thank the teachers who brought them up close to the time of graduation, even though we can't get to that point. Our teachers were amazing. And I also want to congratulate and thank our teachers for all that they do. And I know that we're going to get back to normal eventually, and we'll be able to do good things. And I know that some of the elementary schools are feeling like they want to do a little shout out for their students that are not, they don't call it graduation, although parents do call it that. But they're leaving their elementary school to go into the junior high. And I know, of course, all of our junior highs will be leaving and going into the high school. So for everybody who is making that threshold to progressing in education, congratulations, and I hope to see all of you guys soon. So basically that's what I want to say. And also I want to thank the administrators, because you're the leaders in our district and you're making all this stuff happening. And thank you very much for what you do. Okay.
And Mr. Cool.
Similarly, just want to echo the comments of my colleagues and congratulate all the students who are graduating or being promoted this year. I know it's not how you expected it to in the school year, but I just want to wish my congratulations as well. And I also want to extend our thanks to all the teachers and staff who helped our students get to the finish line, especially for this school year amidst some interesting and challenging times. And then also, again, I just want to also extend our thanks to all those essential workers, those first line emergency response workers out there doing all they can to help us be safe and be able to actually enjoy our lives. So just want to extend our thanks as well again.
Thank you. And I would like to just reiterate what my colleagues have already said, give all the accolades that I can to our administrators and our teachers, students and families. And, but I would also like to commend and acknowledge, Congress for the HEROES Act that we need to support and make sure it passes so that we can have the proper federal support for all the essential workers and all the funding that we can possibly get for education. All right, Superintendent comments.
Yes, I just have a couple. Just want to put a shout out there for the student from MP Brown School who participated in the Youth Cinema Project Live Read Script Competition. His script was selected from among, I don't know how many were submitted, but 1,500 possible submissions to be read live by celebrated Hollywood artists. And it was read last Friday. If you missed his live read or any of the live reads or the MP Brown selected live read that was a couple of weeks ago, you can find it on YouTube under YCP Live Reads. And you can find the script competition as well as the reading of Samantha, which is the title of one of the scripts written by another MP Brown student. Good news in this time of bad news. The district recently received notification that we received a grant from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, the COVID-19 Education Partnership Fund. This fund was established in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties to collect donations from folks around the county and outside the county who want to contribute to schools. This is a school dedicated fund. And it's being administered through the Santa Clara County Office of Education and San Mateo County Office of Education. So all the funds received go right out to San Mateo and Santa Clara County school districts. So our school district was one of 13 to receive grants in this first round of distribution. We received funding for $60,000, which is about half of what we requested. We expect to potentially receive more from this fund as more donations are received. So if you haven't yet donated, or know folks who want to donate, please let them know. And they can find that donation information from the San Mateo County Office of Education website. Our grant has 4 basic prongs. They're all relief related. The first one is providing counseling to some of our key students over the summer. Usually educational services cease during the summer months, but during this time, there are a few students in our district that would really benefit from continued counseling and follow up on some of their issues that they are facing at this time. And so money toward that effort was received. The second one is allowing the district to acquire and replace some of the technology that we have. This we found was especially helpful as we moved into distance learning, but the ability to have equipment that works and is up to date is very important, especially as we look forward to the next 6 months and the very much likelihood that we will continue in some form to need technology across the district. The third one is one that's close to me. is forgiveness of student lunch debt. Many of our families who need to pay something for their lunch or full price for their lunch, were not able to do that. And rather than saddle them with a debt at this time, funds would be used from this grant to forgive that. And we would be informing the families that their lunch debt has been forgiven. This is something that's usually done by movie stars and sports stars. But this time, the community of San Mateo County gets to do that for students in our district. And lastly, this is something that we really have seen the need in the last 10 weeks, was supporting families in crisis with some basic needs and supports. And so some of the grant funds will be used to provide supports as they are referred by our counselors and their school staff to the Daly City Partnership. And so we would partner with the Daly City Partnership to provide much needed relief, immediate crisis relief for families that we found. So we're excited about this opportunity. You know, again, we're one of 13. I don't know how many applied, but there are 24 school districts. And we're excited that we were able to be one of the 13 to receive. The last thing is San Mateo County, the county of San Mateo is preparing to release their schools reopening plan. This is the framework and the guidelines under which the county health department will allow schools to reopen. And so we are eagerly awaiting that. We should receive it by the end of this week. And as we receive it, we'll share more with the board and the community about not so much what our plans are, but how we expect to make our decision about how to reopen. This is assuming that all of the health criteria continues to get better as California reopens and infection rates across the county go down, then we can expect our schools to open as well. So that should be in the next week. At the next board meeting, I hope to provide just a brief report to the board on our plans and our actions over in the coming weeks on how to make this decision. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks to all of you, and thanks to Mr. Vidales for bringing us those, positive reports and good news, as you said. Now we'll move on to persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. The maximum time for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. And do we have anyone?
We do not have any speakers on this item, nor on any future items.
All right. Item 8A, general functions. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and this requires a roll call vote.
Mr. Koo,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Ms. Monio,
Aye.
Mr. Ali.
Aye. Unanimously approved. Item 9A, educational and student services. Tonight we'll have a student and family at home learning survey outcome presentation from Dr. Heidi Joyner, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. And she's here to share the results of the survey, which was sent out to our community, getting their input on how well the home learning is going.
Good evening, everyone. Glad you can hear me. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. All right, can Can you see it?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I think last month I shared that we were going to do a survey of our students and families just to get an idea of how they're experiencing at-home learning, and more so what platforms they've been using and how they've been engaging with their teachers, and just some of their thoughts. The primary questions were focused to the students, and then we had two questions that parents answered as well. And for the younger students, we do know that the parents definitely helped them answer the questions. This survey was sent out to kindergarten through 8th grade. And as you'll see, we did have quite a number of kindergarten families answer the questions. So just to recap, on March 18th, JESD, we moved to an at-home learning model. Again, our teachers were not prepared to teach at home, although we did provide supports for the K-5 students around packets, and our 6-8 students already had devices, which lends to their curriculum being online. So they were a little more prepared to work online, but all JESD students moved into at-home learning and had to learn to use the technology to navigate their education. These are the various platforms that all of our students have been engaging with: Zoom, Google Meets, Google Hangouts, Google Classroom, Seesaw, Class Dojo. These are our main platforms that students and teachers have been using. And again, our TK5 students, they were provided learning packets as well as the devices and using online resources. And those students who struggled with the technology or who just felt better doing the packets were allowed to use the packets at home and then work online with their teachers to finish those packets or discuss what was in the packets. So the survey consisted of these questions. The first 9 are the students, and so they do say student only. So we asked about their grade levels. Uh-oh, should I wait?
Yes, Mr. Smith. Not sure. It's saying that it's flashing on the screen that it's still recording.
Yeah.
On Zoom. So
okay. Should I keep going?
Yeah, I believe it's fine for you to keep going. We have multiple recordings going on, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So again, we asked their grade levels, what method of learning they've used, which one they enjoyed the most, and why they enjoyed it, and then what technology platforms they've used, and which platform was their favorite and why. And then we asked the parents, which platforms have they seen their students using the most, and which ones they enjoyed and why. So we had 960 respondents. We sent out the survey through our teachers because they were the closest to the kids in terms of getting in touch with them quickly and through technology. So we did ask our staff to send out the surveys, and it was purely voluntary. And so we did have 960 respondents. And as you can see, from our kindergarten through 5th grade, our kindergartners brought in the most responses. And then our 8th grade, our 6th grade had the most respondents, but we did get a good sampling of our students. So the question, what method of learning have you used during the shelter in place? Online was the most used, and then students using packets, and video teachers are doing videos, making videos, and then students are watching those videos and then checking in with their teachers through technology. And which method of learning do you enjoy the most, or did you enjoy more? And online again was the highest, and then the packets, and then videos. So why did you enjoy this method of learning the most? And this is just a small sample, but by and large, the answers were very, very similar. So I chose the main answers. Students, the ones that, a lot of them that answered said they like working at their own pace. It was easier to keep track of the work. Some students felt like their teachers explained things better online or through video or through email. Some students said they've been getting better grades as they've been at home and easier to keep track and work on their own. And some students feel like their teachers really explain a lot better through the online. And it could be that a lot of our teachers were checking in and doing smaller group after larger groups. I'm not sure, but we did get several answers like this. So we then asked if you've used technology to learn, which platforms have you used? And so Zoom was the main platform. Google Classroom came in second, and Google Classroom is widely used by the upper grades, but this is accessible to all of our students, and our younger students use Class Dojo and Csba more. But the majority of our students did use Zoom. And so which of these platforms is your favorite? And Zoom came in first, and then Google Classroom. And as you can see, email, Class Dojo, and then Csba. So why was this the students' favorite? And again, this is just a very small sample, but a lot of the answers fit in these categories. Google Classroom, they liked that all of the assignments were listed in Google Classroom so they could go to one place to find their assignments. Google Hangouts, because you don't have to vocally talk. In Google Hangouts, you can text and not be seen. A lot of the kindergarten through 5th grade students said they like Zoom because they could see their friends. They really, all of the kids really like the fact that, you know, they want to be in the classroom with their friends. But this came up a lot from K to 5. And connecting with the teacher virtually and asking questions directly, and that was through speaking about Google Classroom. Excuse me, and then students get to see their teacher and classmate again through Zoom. So if your student, so these are the family questions. If your student has learned through using technology, which platform did you notice your student using? And again, they noticed that Zoom was being used the most, and then Google Classroom, and then Class Dojo and Csba came in after that. And then which platform did you like the most? And again, Zoom came in first and Google Classroom. And here's why the family members said they liked Google Classroom and Zoom the most. Easier for them the parents can also see the assignments in Google Classroom, like with the students, so they can help their students out. Zoom, the parents can also see and listen to what the teacher is doing, and it's live, and they like that it is live. Class Dojo is easy to communicate with the teacher, and Google Classroom made it easy, again, to keep track of the student's assignment and their progress. And in Zoom, it gave them the opportunity to talk with their classmates and their teacher. So what now? What are we doing with this information? So as we saw, Zoom and Google Classroom are the most widely used platforms. and Zoom and Google Classroom are the most popular platforms identified by both students and parents. So in thinking about next steps, and again, this is just initial thinking, we still need to sit down and go a little deeper into the planning for next year and what that will look like in terms of our technology. But a few things is, one, to share the results of this survey with our staff. We do also have a staff survey that is, staff is still taking the staff survey, and that's asking about the staff's experience with these platforms. And then discussing the integration of Zoom and Google Classroom into our curriculum, given that they are the highest rated. How can we integrate them? And then provide ongoing professional development on Zoom and Google Classroom. And this isn't to say that we will not provide ongoing professional development in all of the other ones, but if we as a district decide that Zoom and Google Classroom are primary ways in which teachers and students will communicate, we definitely want to invest more efforts into training all of our staff around these. And again, all of the other ones as well. But Zoom and Google Classroom, if this is the way forward, then we will invest more in training for our staff in these. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Joyner, for your presentation. It was very concise information, which I like a lot. And you presented it well. I did have a question. I know because I took the survey myself as a parent in the district. What were some of, be interesting to know, what were some of the family and the students' comments? I didn't see the student one, but I saw the parent one. And if there was a section for kind of a free form comments in the student ones, I'm not aware, but there was for the parents one. And if we could know what some of those comments were.
So these are the student comments on why they enjoyed. So the question before is, what method of learning did you enjoy the most? So looking at online versus doing packets versus video. So these are some of the thoughts of the students.
It wasn't I'm sorry, Dr. Joyner, it wasn't a leading question. It was more like kind of like an open-ended, anything else you want to tell us at the end of the survey for the parents?
No, we did not ask a question like that. So, I mean, again, I took the data from the open-ended questions and kind of put a smattering of what was said. But we didn't ask any other questions at the end, like if you have any other thoughts. Is that what you mean?
Yes, because I remember filling that one out.
Ms. Manio, we did send out another family survey about reopening and coming back to school. And that one did have a couple of open-ended questions. So I don't know if that's perhaps you're getting and they came out about the same time.
Yes, then I'm getting it mixed up.
Yeah, and we're in the process now of getting all of those comments translated back into English. About half were not in English, so we'll be reporting out to the board on findings from that survey as well.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Everybody can hear me, right? You said there was 960 responses.
Yes.
How many did you send out to get the 960, or how many did not respond?
So we asked, so to answer, I don't know how many students didn't respond, and I don't know how many students received it, because we asked our staff to send it out to their students. So my assumption would be that all of the teachers sent it out, and 960 families responded.
Okay, so again, the question, how many families was it sent out to? I mean, do we only have 960 families? No.
No, so I'm assuming that every student who has an email received it because we asked the teachers to send it out. So the teachers sent it out to all of their students.
So we know what the enrollment is, so we can get that my question answered. How many students were we trying to reach?
So we were trying to reach at about 5,500.
Okay. I see. I thought the 960 was rather small.
Yeah.
I thought, did we make the effort to send to every single parent?
So
you're saying now they had to have an email?
Yeah.
So now, I guess a lot of families don't use email.
So the directions were to send it to the students and the parents.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what how the teachers are communicating with the parents and the students at the same time. So I can only assume that the students probably received it. And there was a letter that also went out to the community to let them know that this was coming. So, I can only assume that the students got it and some of them shared it with their families and some might not have.
Yeah. Well, I would have liked to feel that everybody would have got something. That's all. So
can I chime in on that?
Yeah.
So when parents and families apply for school districts, that's standard that they give an email address. So there's lots of communications that go out to families through email, but just like social distance and remote learning, we've had varied responses with people replying even to the assignments online. So I hear what you're saying, Ms. Brizuela.
Uh-huh.
But I think that the 900 that did respond, that it gives us a good sampling. And just looking at the responses that they gave, this is consistent with my experiences as a classroom teacher as well.
Well, I just feel that I would like to know that we reached out to all of them, and if they need another reminder, if it's done without having to use postage stamps, just going through, like you said, the emails, maybe it would be nice to follow up on those that did not respond, to let them know how important it is that we care about the students, their children. Because I just think that a one-time thing, it might have been a bad day, they may not have been home, somebody might have been sick, but at least if they got another send out there, I would feel that we reached all the students and all the families. That's all.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions?
Let's see. So would you be able to share with us what some of the responses were from the parents? Were they happy about the way things are happening? Do they need more information? How can we help better with our students and our families?
So this survey was asking just about the platforms that we were using with the at-home learning. I think the parent survey that we're looking at right now, or we're getting the information disaggregated and all of that, I think that will speak to whether how parents are feeling. The questions in this survey really just asked about which platforms they like the most, so that going forward we can know better which platforms we as a district will use.
Okay, I'll wait for step 2. Thank you.
All right, so is there anything else on this item? If not, thanks once again, Dr. Jefferson, for that presentation and calling more information about which platforms are working well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we can enhance our program based on that feedback.
Right.
Item 9C, middle school science adoption. The administration recommends adoption of the following science instructional materials. Inspire Science, 6th through 8th grade by McGraw-Hill. The selection of these instructional materials are a result of a middle school selection committee guided by the Educational Services Department, reviewing available curriculums, applying a district lens to materials, piloting 2 different curriculums, and incorporating community input. Did you want to say anything about this, Dr. Jones? Okay.
Yes. So we have I'm going to share my screen again. We have a presentation from members of the Science Adoption Committee and a message from Jessica Pace, the Director of Teaching and Learning. So hold on one moment. Wait. Sorry. This isn't working.
Hello, my name is Jessica Pace, and I am the Teaching and Learning Program Director. I will be highlighting the work that the Middle School Science Committee has been involved with, and I will share with you their recommendation for new middle school next generation science materials. We began this process by reviewing the state of California's materials piloting guidelines. We assembled a committee of middle school science teachers with representatives from each of the 4 middle schools. In addition, our committee included an instructional coach and an inclusion specialist. At our first meeting back in March 2019, we began by developing our district lens. We asked ourselves, what are we looking for in a science program? Who are our students and what will they need to be successful? The committee identified the following 8 criteria: a strong technology component to support our one-to-one device initiative in the middle schools, to ensure that the materials are accessible for all of our learners, and that there was a strong integrated ELD, literacy, and writing components built into the program. The team also prioritized that the program was based on phenomena and that students would have many hands-on learning opportunities. Back in March 2019, San Mateo County Office of Education engaged the committee in a shared professional learning experience where we had the opportunity to use a science materials evaluation tool to examine the 12 science programs on the state of California's approved materials list prior to any piloting. As a result of that experience, the committee narrowed our list to 8 programs we wanted to learn more about. We scheduled 2 full days of publisher presentations to dive deeper into evaluating these 8 programs. After an extensive review, the committee decided on 3 programs they would like to pilot. These programs were iQuest, Delta FOSS, and Inspire Science. Over the course of the 2019-2020 school year, the committee received training on each of these 3 programs and piloted these materials with their students. After each of the piloting cycles, the teachers and students completed surveys. To keep our community informed of the process, we included updates in our weekly Friday Educational Services newsletter and in the Teaching and Learning monthly newsletter. We also sent a letter this month out to our middle school families, and we have the materials available for review at the district office, as well as an online link for families to review the program from home. This month, the committee met through Zoom and thoroughly discussed each program. The committee voted unanimously to recommend Inspire Science as our new middle school science curriculum. Here are a few student quotes. I think that the program gave me great opportunities to engage in what I'm learning. There was also some sentence frames provided for many of my responses. I think that the Inspire Science program is really good, and I understand what I'm supposed to be learning in each lesson. There was a good amount of experiments and the chance to interact during the lessons. Let's hear from some of our science teachers on the committee as to why they are recommending the adopted Inspire Science.
Hello, this is Cynthia Guggenheim, 8th grade science at TRP, coming to you from my virtual lab today. Just talking a little bit about why we chose Inspire Science from McGraw-Hill. And one of the things that I like the most about the curriculum is that it uses the Page-Keeley science probes that I know a lot of us have been using already in various ways. I'll show you all what I mean by these. So these probes are basically to get students thinking before we start a certain topic or unit, and then circle back to it later and allow students to revise their thinking. So for example, here's one that we used in the pilot unit about, when someone is pushing a lawnmower at a constant speed and with constant force, could the lawnmower move faster than the person walking? And then the students would pick which option they most agree with and give an explanation. And then later throughout the lesson, you would come back to this once students have more information and knowledge. And it's a really nice way for them to see their own growth and see how their understanding of a certain topic has changed. So I really appreciate the use of those Page-Keeley probes as part of the curriculum. Another thing I really appreciate is the emphasis on scientific argument writing. So the claim, evidence, reasoning type writing. That's a type of scientific thinking and writing that's really important in NGSS, and I like that those structures are built into the curriculum.
One of the things that I really liked about Inspire Science by McGraw-Hill was that it was able to take really difficult material, things like exploring phenomena, and really distill it down to something that the students who are at all different levels could access. So that's a really important part of the NGSS curriculum, is really this idea of a phenomena-driven inquiry-based approach. And one of the things that Inspire Science did a really good job of was making that front and center. So of all the programs that we test piloted, I would have to say it was probably the best in terms of being able to adapt to different levels of understanding, as well as able to work in multiple languages. The online platform is robust, and overall, I would say it was a really great program, and I highly recommend it. Thanks very much.
Hello, Kelly Quinn here, 6th grade FDR science teacher. And I just wanted to show you a couple of the reasons why we picked McGraw-Hill Inspire Science for the next gen science standard NGSS science curriculum for next year. One of the reasons why we picked it was that they have Page-Keeley science probes, which help students to question or introduce a phenomenon, and then later they revisit them and revise their thinking. Another thing they have is a STEM module project that's interwoven throughout the module, so that they are constantly working on some engineering standards as well. Like in the thermal energy unit, they have to build a solar oven, and they have to figure out why it should be a solar oven, or they could even come up with other ideas for how to heat food in an area without electricity. So they can use other types of thermal energy as well, if they think about it. And then Some other features that we really liked was that the curriculum uses PhET simulations, which are computer simulations for things that we can't do a lab for inside the classroom. So a lot of times that can model things that are too hard for students to see, like molecules or particles. And it can also model situations that would be too dangerous to do in a classroom, like things involving a lot of heat or chemicals. So they can play around with a simulation that will lead them to the same conclusions as if they were to do the lab in person. A few other things we liked about it was that it involves claim evidence reasoning, which is argument writing, which is a big part of the next gen science standards, and also leads students to make a claim, revise their claim, and provide evidence that their claim is correct, which is a huge thing to do for both language arts skills and for science skills. And then lastly, this curriculum had a lot of labs that we liked. So they had a lot of hands-on, minds-on labs and ways for students to pose questions and then design labs to answer their questions. So thanks.
Hi, nice to meet you all. My name is Zachary Hom. I am an 8th grade science teacher at Fernando Rivera, and I was part of the piloting committee for recommending a specific science curriculum. I recommended Inspire Science because there's a couple of reasons. First thing is that it is NGSS aligned. In case you don't know what NGSS is, it's the new science standards that the nation just released within the past, I think 3 or 4 years. And so I felt like this program really dug really deep into the new standards and provided phenomena-based learning. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this program is the fact that one of the authors of this curriculum is actually, her name is Paige Keeley, and within the science education community, Paige Keeley is a legend. She has done tremendous work in creating formative assessments for teachers to understand really what students are thinking, what their preconceptions are, and sometimes even misconceptions. And so when I saw her on this curriculum, I got really, really excited. And so they've integrated her work very seamlessly into the textbook. And so hope you guys really enjoy what this program will provide, and yeah, hopefully it goes well.
I think Inspire Science would be a good program to adopt. Lots of reasons, but I'm just going to mention 2. One is a technical facility in using the interface, the online interface, both for teachers. It's very intuitive, especially teaching old dogs. It would be good for new teachers too. They would adapt to it very easily and quickly. The kids find it easy to use as well. And the EL component, the facilitating English language learners and RSP kids, there's a lot of options for the kids to talk to each other about the science concepts. And there's a breakdown on how to approach it differently so that they can get the content as well. So just a few reasons why we should adopt Inspire Science. Thank you.
Hello, I am Dennis Lee, and I'm a 7th grade science teacher at FDR. Just wanted to report a couple of things regarding our research and experience with California Inspire Science. I have 3 reasons why I chose this program. The first and foremost, it's what we call CER in science. So C is claim, evidence, and reasoning. That is a cycle that new standards want our students to be able to explain or make a claim about phenomena, which drives our instruction. Phenomena is things that happen around in the world, something that's natural, or even some things that you can't see, that our students really understand how we make a claim. And then evidence is what they've learned throughout the lesson that supports the claim. And the reasoning is how they put it all together to explain why the evidence basically supports their claim. This is true scientific thinking, and I really appreciate that. The other piece that I'm really happy to see is that there's a really clear cycle of instruction. They call it the 4 E's or the 5 E's. You start with engagement, which is the science probe that you're going to hear about from other teachers that really sparks the students' interest and also is a formative assessment. There's an explain and explore time in which students are doing investigations or lab work that they're exploring basically information about the phenomena. They get to get elaboration, which is sort of sometimes an extension. And finally, they get to be evaluated in different ways. So I really like that structure. I think it builds understanding from the student's part as well. And finally, it's very clear when I work with this curriculum that it is California centered, meaning a lot of the activities and extensions are connected to something in California. And I think it's really important that we adopt a program that is consistent that way. So those are my reasons that I support the adoption of California Inspire Science.
Wow.
I think we've all had a nice little science education tonight.
Yeah.
And so we are asking for the approval to adopt Inspire Science.
All right, thank you very much. And thanks to all the teachers who participated in that. That was a very thorough investigation of the curriculum, and it just shows how much the world has evolved. You know, we used to just, well, not me, but before my time, people would just adopt textbooks. But you know, this has so many layers to it and so many aspects to it that I'm very proud to hear our teachers articulate, you know, how much they explored this this curriculum module, and I'm excited to use it. Any other members have any questions or comments?
Well, I'd like to say that I'm inspired by it. I think it sounds great. And anytime we engage the students in being hands-on and doing things, the more they're going to remember, the more they're going to learn. So to me, this is great. I support this. Excellent.
I also want to echo the comments of Mr. Csba. I think it sounds like a great program, especially that inspires and actually encourages students to actually get more active when it comes to their science education. So yeah, it looks like a great program. I look forward to seeing how it does.
I as well share the same sentiment as my fellow board members. I actually perused McGraw's website before the meeting just to see what it was. It's very different from my science curriculum when I was in middle school, but it is very robust. And I hope that we can implement all of these elements, even in any event that we, you know, either don't open or reclose or whatever the situation is, that it's seamless for us to implement this online. And I do like, just to go into it a little bit, the teachers did not talk about this specifically, but I did appreciate their testimonials and their reviews. But I liked the adaptability of the curriculum toward the learner and where the learner level is. And I hope that that is implemented no matter what we do next school year. So thank you, Ms. Joyner, for the presentation. It was very, very informative.
Yeah, I'd like to just comment on what you just brought up, Ms. Manio. It sounded like there are elements of the curriculum that addresses English language learners. And I heard that, students who have IEPs and learning disabilities. So I'm also, interested in seeing how well we're able to adapt this to all the different learning styles of our students. Mr. Vidales, did you have anything else to?
I just wanted to say that the word inspires me.
Yeah.
And from someone who just did not like science when I was going to school, because you had to cut up a little, well, never mind, but you know how that is. And I think that science at one time was more a boys thing. And now we're realizing that it doesn't have to be just what boys like to do. This is something that's going to be an inspiration to all students, to everyone, and they're going to enjoy this. And if they enjoy it, guess what? They're going to do a better job, and they can all be successful. So that's what I liked about it. And I love that word being used, that we're inspiring our students. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Vidales,
I don't have anything more to add than what staff has added. As you see, it was a very thorough process that started over a year ago. So it was long-standing and consistent work over the course of the year. So feel confident in their recommendation.
All right. So do we have a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the middle school science as presented to this evening.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor, say aye and
aye.
thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it is unanimous. Congratulations. Good job, everyone. Item 10, business and financial procedures. Item 10B, food service management contract. Selection. The administration recommends the governing board authorize district personnel to negotiate the final contract with the provider recommended by the evaluation committee. Yay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this has been a long road. It started back October 9th is when I gave you the presentation, and we determined, or you determined, what you wanted to do on alternate 1 and alternate 2. And our committee did meet a week ago Monday on the 18th. And we reviewed that we ended up with 2 proposals. I did reach out to 11 different food service management companies. I was able to get contact information for 7 of them. So I regularly reached out to them, so hoping that they would provide us with a proposal. We ended up with 2 proposals. I'm happy that we ended up with 2. One was from Lunchmaster and the other one was from Sodexo. And the price comparison was very, very different. The team did evaluate, and Sodexo ended up with a score of 371 points, and Lunchmaster ended up with a score of 289 points. There was an 82-point spread. According to the rules of that the CDE sets up for this process, we do have to award the highest scoring company. And so that would be Sodexo. I do want to let you know what the price differences were, though. So Sodexo, for the base rate, which was the more of the equivalent to what we have, although we can talk with them about different food options available, was they all had to give their proposals based on the same number of meals. And so those meals were the ones that we did in 2018-19, because we knew exactly how many meals we had. And obviously this year we don't know. And this year would not have been a good year to determine it on. So it was like 941,000 meals a year. And Sodexo ended up with a $1.1 million cost for the base meal. If we want the alternate one, then it was 1.8 million. The difference was $697,000 more. And alternate two was 2.2 million. It ended up being $1,125,000 more than the base one. And the Lunchmaster was 3.6 million, and they only gave one bid. They didn't give an alternate one or an alternate two. So in any case, basically your choice here is to either go, well, it has to be with Sodexo with this RFP, and either the base meals, the alternate one meals, or the alternate two meals. And being the CBO of the district and being the financial situation that we are in now, at the moment, I would have to recommend the base amount, because in all cases, we do not make enough in sales or in state and federal reimbursements to be able to cover our costs in food service. As you know, our salaries and benefits are generous compared to the rest of the United States. That's for absolutely sure. And of course, also generous compared to the rest of California. And consequently, with the high rate of free and reduced, we end up getting about $3 between the state and the feds, $3 and per meal. It's a $2.75 that we charge them, but for the paid meals, but we get an additional 25 cents or so, about 30 cents, I think, from the feds and state for paid meals. And basically we get that same amount for free and reduced meals. So that is what I would like to answer any questions if you'd like. But again, it was 1.1 million for the base, 1.8 million for the alternate one, and 2.2 million for the alternate two.
All right, thanks. I do have one question in regards to us being in shelter in place and providing meals in a different fashion.
I'm sorry, you froze for a second there.
Is there any data yet on, okay. I was saying, the fact that we're providing meals in a different way now because of shelter in place. I'm just curious, is there any data that shows any amount of waste, or has the waste gone up or gone down? Are we saving money more? Are we losing more money as a result of being in shelter in place?
Okay, yeah, I'd like to answer that to the best of my ability. So families are picking up meals for their children through the age of 18. And they're picking up breakfasts, lunches, and dinners or suppers. They are coming and picking up the number that would match the number of children they're coming to pick them up for. Regarding waste, first off, it's not costing the district anymore because we only pay for the number of meals that we give out. So if we come to a site with 300 meals and we only give out 250, we only pay for 250. The food is purchased by the food service management company. And we only get charged for meals that we actually put out. Now, are they throwing things away? I can't, they take them, they go home, and I can't tell you if anything's being thrown away or not. But it does not cost us more money.
So I just want to point out that we're not throwing anything away.
No, well, no, I mean, not the district. It's possible that the food service management company can't always use everything all the time. It's possible that there is waste, but of course they're going to try to minimize that because it's going to be their cost.
Got you. All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry to reiterate, have we saved money since the SIP order?
I would say no. And the reason why I would say no is because we were serving a lot more meals per day when school was open, and we had 6,000 students captive, and about, well, including all meals, it was about 5,200 meals a day, including breakfast, lunch, and supper. And so now it's a lot fewer meals. So, and those meals, selling those meals and getting the reimbursement for those meals, we're spending less money for the food service management company, but we're making less revenues because our reimbursements, and of course we don't have sales, but everything is reimbursement, is not high enough to cover all our staff because nobody's being laid off, right? So we still have a large staff that is serving a lot fewer meals.
Thanks. Are there any other questions, or do we have any deliberation on this? Any board members have an idea of which option that you would like to see us go with?
Well, being part of the committee, I did want to point out that the difference between alternate 1 and 2 isn't, I don't know, to me, it didn't garner $1 million difference, but again, we're dealing on a very large scale. So the only real difference between alternate 1 and 2 was the fruit and vegetables. There was no other, there was no other difference. We didn't ask for organic milk. We didn't ask for organic beef. We only put the difference is fruit and veggies. And to me personally, I'm not, exactly sure if that really garners $1 million difference.
Can I add something here? I just want to let you know that I talked to the state today, and I asked them because Sodexo gave all 3 options, and we didn't get 3 options from anybody else, so they would have been the most competitive or the highest scoring for all of them. If in the future we'd be able to switch from one to the other, and from like base to alternate 1, or from alternate 1 to 2, or whatever. And I was informed that we cannot. So once we make a decision, then we have to stick with that decision unless we go out for a new RFP later on. And of course we could go out for an RFP at any time, but plan on it taking us going out, starting the process in August and then taking a year for the most part. So once a decision is made, if you change your mind, then we need to go out again. And I wish that my next presentation was before this one, because we're looking at multi-million-dollar deficits in the next few years, at least until the recession repairs, the economy repairs itself. And I can only hope that it's going to be a U-shaped recession and not an L-shape. And I just needed to share that information with you. We have to make cuts in order to meet our 2-year obligation, out-year obligation.
But this vote is not for the exact which option. We're just going into an exclusive negotiating agreement with the specific company.
No, it's both. You have to choose which one to go into at this point. That's why I really wanted to clarify with the state. I thought through the years we'd be able to switch around, but we can't. And this vote is to go into to negotiate the final contract for whichever, either the base, alternate 1, or alternate 2.
All right, and just to clarify, the contract is for how many years?
Well, The RFP is good for a 5-year period,
Oh,
but we can go out for an RFP at any time. So in other words, once we have this, once we award it, we can renew it 4 times, and then we have to go out for an RFP. However, if we offer it and then in a year from now, things are better, and we want to go out and say, hey, look at, we really wanted to try to do an alternate 1 or alternate 2, and we want to see, you know, what kind of proposals we get. We can do that. We can go out. I'm just saying it takes a long time to go out and do the proposal. So it's not like you can go out and 2 months later we can switch over. But if you want to go out after 1 year, we can do that. It's not a problem. It's time consuming, but it's not a problem.
All right. Well, I haven't heard much from Mr. Koo, but does anyone want to make a motion?
Can I just clarify? We're making a motion on both the company and the choice simultaneously?
Yes, and then we negotiate the final terms of the contract. And then that I have to give to the state again, because they want to make sure that our final terms are, number 1, in accordance with whichever plan it is, and that there were no changes that would cause it to be non-competitive, a non-competitive process. And also that they are following all the rules and regs and everything that is required in a contract.
I have something to say. Are we talking about the contract and stuff? I want to know about the food. Because, you know, before when we talked about contract for, you know, lunches and stuff like that, we were promised it would be all fresh, and it's not. And so I want to make sure, are we going, is this only part of it, and then we're going to go to the other part? Or?
No, this is it. And so in October, when we had that meeting and the board discussed what they wanted in each of these, you know, in the base and the others, at that time, that's when the decisions were made as to what types of food would be in each of those.
Okay.
The difference in, so the alternate 1 and alternate 2, again, Ms. Magno expressed that it's the organic fruits and vegetables that's on the alternate 2. That is the difference there. The difference that is in alternate 1, and also therefore in alternate 2, in addition, that except for the organic fruits and vegetables, was the mixed greens, well, all beef franks and slightly larger sizes in a package, white muscle meat, and that's in both alternate 1 and alternate 2, and all beef patties with 3 ounces at the middle school site level. And so that is what alternate 1 would give you without the organic fruits and vegetables. But they, and I'd have to look at it. I had it pulled up a moment ago, and I could pull it up on the screen, but anytime anything can be bought locally and be reasonably priced within 250 miles, because we get a lot from the Central Valley, that's what we try to do. And I will say as well that the federal government is moving away from any kind of unnatural syrups in any kind of the canned fruit. So that is becoming more natural sweeteners. And that's usually something like an apple juice in it, because sometimes it can't be stored in its own juice for, you know, I don't know all the reasons, but it's normally like an apple juice, I think, but I don't quote me on that.
Okay, so I guess I'm hearing beef, but I thought we were leaning towards not having like, I thought chicken was supposed to be more safer or better for people.
Well, it's beef and chicken, but the choice, we never moved away from the beef.
Yeah, okay.
What I remember is that, and I don't want us to go too far down into the weeds with this again, but I actually remember that the beef, the whole reason for the beef.
You got, I don't hear you.
Lose the weight. Okay, does everybody else hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Now we can hear you, but we missed that little part there.
Okay, so what I was saying is that the whole reason why we had chose to go with the all beef and the bigger size is we were trying to reduce the waste. And I remember that Ms. Kessler was telling us that she believed that the students had a more of an affinity.
You're off again.
Beef. And then we all decided that we all decided that the students would probably eat the beef more so than some turkey or chicken hot dogs. But anyway, it sounds like the only difference is.
So it's just the hot dogs then, is that what you're saying?
Well, all beef franks and all beef patties without any kind of a filler.
Okay. That's good.
And white muscle meat. So
what's white muscle meat?
So it's chunks of meat. That is the white meat only.
From a chicken?
Yes.
Or what? Oh,
yes.
Okay. Just wanted to know. All right.
That's okay.
Well, the way you just said white meat, I don't know what we're eating or what you're giving the kids to eat. Okay. I got it all right.
There's a slight problem though. What we're talking about now really is all the reasons why I would say we should go with the alternate one.
Okay.
Based on Kessler and what Ms. Monio said. However, based on what Ms. Kessler is saying about the economy going forward, then I'm leaning more towards the base. So that's why I don't want us to go deeper into the woods tonight because we spend a lot of time.
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
May I just interject here a bit? I mean, I think you remember from the conversations we had in the fall. Let me turn on my video. You remember in the fall, we had the conversations that the food service program, which is how we structure it, is not paying for itself. So the district is already subsidizing it. And the board decided at that point they didn't want to raise the lunch prices to be more comparable to other surrounding districts and wanted to keep it at the lower price, which meant that the board at that point was agreeing that they would subsidize the food service program. This, between the base program and the alternate program, I'm not sure that we can raise participation enough to be able to make up that difference. Like if more kids came and participated in the program, either bought their own or got free or got reduced, we'd get more reimbursement. I'm not sure we'd be able to raise our participation enough to make up, is it about $700,000 there?
Yeah, it's 600, yes, 697, so $700,000.
$700,000 that if we don't make it up with additional meals, most of that we're going to have to subsidize again. And I think Ms. Kessler was correct that you've been reading the papers, you know that there's a $54 billion.
Oh, I'm going to be telling them all about that.
Yeah, I know,
but next, right.
You need to make this decision in that context, that whatever we don't make back in the lunch program gets cut from a program or a classroom or a staff member because we just can't print our own money. So that's what you need to take into account as you make this. I wish we could print our money, but we cannot. So.
Okay. All right.
Thanks very much. And this is why you're our executive officer. And it's what you get paid for, to keep everything in perspective. So, Mr. Koo, do you want to add anything, or does anyone want to make a motion?
I do have one question for Ms. Kessler. I know when we spoke about the school lunch program as well as sort of this process last year, I know you were talking about sort of ongoing sort of losses in terms of like profit and losses over time, just because it costs a lot more to be able to run the program versus just keeping it the way it is right now. When it comes down to like picking a base, Alt 1 or Alt 2, are all of them technically going to, in theory, lose more money than it takes in?
Oh, yes. It's just how much more. So alternate 1, base, we're going to have to subsidize some. Alternate 1, we're going to have to probably subsidize about $700,000 more than 1. And alternate 2, about $1.1 million more. And that comes out of the general fund. There is no other place that and honestly, we don't have the funds to be able to subsidize anything right now. Although economy turns around and our enrollment picks up, we were doing pretty well before. And I expect that will happen again. Not this next year, maybe not the following year, but I do believe it will happen again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we've heard enough now, from all points of view, and it's time for us to make a decision.
I just had a quick question, sorry. If, Ms. Kessler, if we vote on this and we feel like we want, because I have a feeling I know where this board is going, and if we wanted to change it within the following year, when would that process start?
As soon as possible. If you want to change it for the following year, you will start working on it in August.
And then vote again in?
This time next year.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Well, if there's no more deliberation or questions, do we have a motion? If not, then I'll make the motion that we approve the base level negotiations for the food service contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thumbs up. Aye.
It's down.
Those opposed?
Wait, I'm sorry, before I make my vote, is this only a 1-year contract, right?
It is. It will only be a 1-year contract unless if we want to go out for another RFP, then we can do another RFP and do it again. We'll only be committed to 1 year, okay. But if we want to go out for an RFP, we've got to start soon. Although at the moment, I don't know that anything would be different. If I've reached out to 11 different companies and got 2, it's not, and this was, like earlier on before COVID was too bad. But,
so this is far-fetched, but if we were not able to be able to have the schools opened to feed them, can we get out of this contract?
Oh, we can cancel the contract anytime.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
The only thing is that in order to work with somebody else, we need to do an RFP.
I understand that.
Okay.
I want to make sure that because of the way the world is getting right now, we're not sure where we're going to be. I want to make sure that we're not going to be liable to have to keep paying them if we're not serving food.
Oh, we don't pay them if we're not serving food.
Okay.
There is we pay
no
per
cost.
Meal, no
okay.
cost.
Okay.
We pay, it's called a fixed price per meal.
Okay.
If we serve 1 meal, we pay for 1 meal.
Okay. Then that answers my question. So I can vote yes.
All right, so that was 3 yes and 1 no. Ms. Manuel was a no, correct? All right, so that's approved, 3-1.
And can I just commend Ms. Kessler for your work? I know that it was a lot. You were inundated with having to constantly contact some of these providers and, you know, to no avail. So I just wanted to acknowledge the work that you did on this. And if in case we do go back to RFP, thank you in advance for entertaining
That's all
that.
right. That's okay. If that's what you end up wanting to do, then I'm here to do that.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
So item 10C, General Pershing State Preschool ADA Ramp Project. The bid opening for the General Pershing State Preschool ADA Ramp Project will be held on May 26, 2020 at 2 p.m. at the district office. The administration recommends the project be awarded to the low responsible bidder, which I believe it says Dryco Construction, for $285,000 plus $28,500, which is a total of $293,500.
Mr. Ali, I did
bid-
make, I did
go ahead.
make an addition mistake on that 293, but the two figures were correct. 285 for the base, 28,500 for the contingencies, for a total of 313,000.
Okay. So 313,000. Is it 313.5?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, 313.500. And this bid sheet amount and recommended awardee will be uploaded, should have been uploaded today by 7 o'clock. An additional 10% contingency will be included to cover work to address unforeseen conditions to be approved by this administration. Recommended contractor has submitted the low valid bid. This will be funded by Fund 21. Do we need any commentary on this from administration, or straightforward?
The only comment I would make, this is for the General Pershing ramp. They participated with Rebuilding Together to build their first ramp from street level to the office level. They reapplied to Rebuilding Together and got some funds to help build this ramp that goes from the office level up to the second level of classrooms, and fully making the school accessible for students and staff, families with mobility disabilities.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the state preschool ramp as submitted, and we know it's needed very much. Very much.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your thumb.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimously approved. And not only is it necessary, it's legal. It's by law. We have to be compliant. And Americans with Disability Act. Item 10G, the Woman of the Hour, Ms. Kessler, will give her update on the revision of the state.
So, Ms. Joyner, if you can put up my presentation. There we go. All right. So I don't know if we can. Yes, there we go. So can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, it doesn't quite fit there, does it? I'll give you a moment to read this. This is basically the U.S. economy. And I think most of you are very well aware of the pain that the economy is going in right now. there's just some basic information, but a couple things I'd like to point out to you is, and I don't know, I guess you're not going to be able to see if I use a pointer, but the GDP for the second quarter, which we are in right now, is expected to drop by 42.8%. That is an enormous drop. GDP during the Great Depression went down 26%. Now, it's not as bad as the Great Depression, because the Great Depression, it was down for a long time. This is expected to be down like that for that quarter. And of course, we don't know how long it's going to take to bounce back up, but I still am hopeful that it won't be an L-shaped recession. And then the very last line about the Dow Jones, it has lost during this period of time from August 8th to March 24th, it lost 37.5% of its value. And that is really important, because that we have a lot of Californians, and you'll see that on the next slide, that pay capital gains taxes. And, you know, it has come back a lot, but nevertheless, it's dropped significantly. And if people sold during that drop, to, you know, and realize losses instead of gains, it's going to show up on their tax return. So next slide, please. More importantly for our particular budget is the state of our state. And our unemployment rate has skyrocketed. And as you know, we had a very, very low unemployment rate. In February, it was 3.9%. And in May, it's expected to be upwards around 19%. Again, as you know, when people aren't making money, they're not paying taxes. And so if you look right below that, the three big taxes, you see the personal income tax has dropped since the January proposal, which things were really rosy in the January proposal, although not so good for us just because of our declining enrollment. But since the January proposal, the estimated income tax for the year has gone down by 25.2%. And then you see sales tax as well has gone down a lot, and corporate tax. This is what makes up the majority of the state's general fund income. And as you see, third bullet down, the state is expecting $41 billion less revenues over this 2-year period, 1920 and 2021, than it did in January. That is a huge amount. And that, coupled with the state subsidized programs that many Californians are participating in now, is causing a $54.3 billion budget shortfall as we go into the 2021 year. Next slide, please. So I would say in this case, given this horrible outlook, the good news is that the budget, the governor believes this to be an L shape. I mean, that's bad news, but it's already budgeted basically at the worst it's going to be budgeted. If the U-shaped recession happens, it will come back up again in a year to 2 years. I'm thinking about 1.5 years, so a year from December. But this budget is based on L-shaped recession assumptions, which is much more conservative. So the reason why I say it's good is I feel that it will likely get better over time. Maybe this summer it will get worse, but then in a year or so, I feel that it will get better than what's being projected now. So the governor intends to use all of the budget stabilization funds, all 16.2 billion, but he will use half of it for next year because it's only allowed to be that the first year of emergency, Proposition 2 from 2014 only allows half of it to be used. And then the remaining amount would be used in the following years. And then the other big, and there's lots of cuts, deferrals. There's the drawdown of the school rainy day fund, and there's only $524,000 in that school rainy day fund, but there's a drawdown of that. And so education is expected to be hit by $19 billion. So if we can go on to the next slide. So Proposition 98 has a $17.7 billion hit. The $19 billion isn't all in Proposition 98. And so that's why this number is slightly smaller. So of the $17.7 billion, that's over a 2-year period. So the current year, we have a $4.2 billion shortfall, and next year, $13.5 billion. And then for K-12, if you look one line down there, our portion is $15.1 billion. So it gets smaller and smaller. And how is that $15.1 billion going to be put upon us? Well, the governor proposes to apply the COLA, 2.3% COLA to LCFF, and then cut it by 10%. And that will save the state $6.5 billion. And I'm going to show you what these numbers look like for Jefferson later on. But right now, I'm just telling you what he's planning on doing to close this gap. In addition, categorical programs won't get, some of them won't get COLA, the majority of them. And also, some of them, they're going to cut a multitude of categorical programs. Fortunately, a lot of them we do not participate in, but we do participate in some of them. In addition, if you recall, there were deferrals before where we didn't get our money until the following year. Well, that's going to start, and they're going to start with this year. So our June apportionment amount won't come to us until July. And for the following year, he plans on deferring, at this point, a little bit of April, and looks like all of May and all of June from the 2020-21 year into the 21-22 year. So in July, and they haven't said when exactly we would be getting those funds. I would imagine probably during the summertime of 2021. So that is a large amount. And of course, it's at the same time that everybody's getting cuts. So you're getting cuts and deferrals. So if you recall this is something we had before. We were getting 78 cents on the dollar, and we were deferring a huge amount of our revenues into the following year. So we're going to be experiencing the same type of smoke and mirrors with the deferrals, because we recognize it in the current year and the state recognizes the expenditure in the following year, which is not normally done in accounting. Next slide, please.
Can I interrupt for a quick
Absolutely.
second and ask you? So in a situation like that with deferral,
I'm sorry, Mr. Ali.
Decide to use reserve.
You cut out for a little bit. Could you please repeat that?
Could that, when we have situations when we're dealing with deferrals, would that be a good opportunity for the board to use reserve funds to cover the amount of deferred funds until they come?
Well, actually, you just approved a temporary transfer from Fund 40 into Fund 10 for $10 million, just so that we can do that. And so because we're not going to be getting the money in June and we're going to be getting in July, we will be using these funds. And as soon as we get the money in July, we will pay the money back to Fund 40. So that is actually, the funds that are in Fund 40 are not reserves. They are reserved for capital projects. but we do have reserves in Fund 20, which is really for the post-employment benefits that the post-employee benefits that the board can approve to temporarily borrow to get us over these humps like this. But as you'll see further, we will actually be meeting those reserves just to meet our actual expenditures. But yes, this is where the reserves have helped us, and will continue to help us until we actually need to eat those reserves. Did that answer your question, Mr. Ali? Okay, so I can't hear anybody.
I'm just going to ask one question. You did say that we can use those, the funds, emergency funding, but we're not going to be able to pay it back? It's going to be gone? Is that what you said? I thought I heard you say.
We are going to use some reserves now to help us with the deferrals of receiving our apportionment. However, as our multi-year projection works its way through these years, unless the economy and the budget changes, we will be using our reserves to actually pay for expenditures. And correct, once we use them, they will be gone. And
So
that's why
we're using all of them? I mean, we're supposed to have a little bit of a reserve.
we, in order to meet our, we will have a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. But yes, we will be using all of our reserves if we do not make reductions.
So is that once we vote on this, then it's gone?
No, it's the budget. You're going to be voting on the budget. This is me just giving you the state of the economy and how it will affect the district. And so this is an update that the next board meeting will be bringing the proposed budget to you to approve. And that proposed budget at this time is going to need cuts in the third year out in order to be able to meet our reserve for economic uncertainty. And that will be between now and then, we would be using all of those reserves to help pay for expenditures. And in the third year, we would require cuts. So we want to have cuts earlier on so we don't have to just cut in the third year, but reductions in order for us to meet our reserve for economic uncertainty. And that's all the money we would have left.
So we're taking it into shouldn't we be watching what we're spending and not spend more now? So we don't make those cuts?
Well, well, we actually have to make reductions in order to reduce expenditures.
Yeah, but I'm saying right now we should not be approving new things, new spending, because
I can't tell you
know what I mean by that. You know what I mean by that.
I do understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I totally understand what you're saying.
I mean, I don't want to wait till say
what I'm saying is the board is going to have to determine what programs or expenditures it is willing to give up first in order to meet our reserve for economic uncertainty. To approve something new now, it might be that you approve something new now and you want to get rid of something else. You know, I can't tell you what priorities you're going to have. But that is something that we will have to come to you with and let you know.
Yeah, if I can just interject here a bit. Ms. Brzella, you are correct. We do need to take into account our current spending, and I believe we are to the extent we can. This is something that, came upon us like in April. There's not a lot of time to adjust. As you know, when you want to make adjustments to a budget, you need to have a whole process. That is where we're fortunate that we have reserves, that we've always said the reserves are there to help us respond to the budget shortfalls that will happen. And that's how we will use the reserves initially to help us respond to that. And we're seeking, lots of cost saving measures all throughout the district where we can right now, and seeking others through our conversations with our employee groups from, lots of different places, so that we don't want to make all of our reductions in year 3, because that number is too large. We'd want to make a few reductions every year. And then, as Ms. Kessler mentioned, she believes it'll be, from what she's read, it'll be a short recession. We should be bouncing back by then. So those cuts may not need to be made. We may just need to make short-term reductions to help us through this. This is something that is, and it's sort of, I laugh all the time. This is the reserve for economic uncertainties, because we are in an economic uncertain time, and we can't use those funds. We have to keep them. I don't really understand why we have to keep a reserve for economic uncertainties if they're untouchable. But anyway, that's another question. But we have to keep 3%, which we cannot use when we pass the budget. But we are in an economic uncertain time. So I don't know what happens when you dip into them. So anyway, we're not alone in this. There are 1,000 school districts in California. Only 100 of them are basic aid, and they're safe for now. The other 990 of us are state funded, and we're all in the same boat, trying to bail ourselves out. So you can continue, Mrs. Kessler.
Okay, yeah. So to give you a little perspective here, we had our conferences, our governor's May Revised conferences last week. And it was only yesterday morning that we got the new LCFF calculator to be able to see how that was going to be affected. And in the CVO meeting today, there were people who they were very surprised at how the calculator worked. And I'll kind of show you that a little bit later, how it affects us. But in any case, some of the information that I'm giving you, I only received this morning because it was not available until then. And it gives us very little time to actually work with it. So on this slide here, this is how the governor is trying to help mitigate some of the losses that we're going to have. But as I said, these losses are big. And one of them is, I don't know if you recall, that he put a lot towards STRS and PERS liabilities in the last couple of years. He was going to pay down some of the out-year liabilities. Well, he's pulled back paying down the out-year liabilities, and what he wants to do is redirect those funds, $2.3 billion, to reducing school districts' PERS and STRS liabilities for the 2021 and 21-22 year. So that and I'll show you what the savings of that is a few slides down. In addition to that, he's received $9.5 billion federal coronavirus funds, and he wants to pass along $4 billion to education. This is being contested. The legislature does not like the way this is showing up, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in another slide, but it's likely to have some changes. And so they're funds that we're not including at this time in our budget. And so combined with the $355 million, it's $4.4 billion that he's wanting to pass along to school districts. But these funds have to be spent by December 30th of 2020, not December 31st, but December 30th of 2020. And then, of course, again, the use of the rainy day fund for education. But that budget stabilization amount, that 16.2 billion. At the moment, he's giving none of that to education. It's going to other, for other purposes, but not education. He's promised some trigger off language in his proposal. If the feds come through, like for instance, as Mr. Ali said, with the HERO Act, and the money comes and California gets money, he has pledged that he would do trigger offs on some of these cuts. So maybe a trigger off would be getting rid of the 10% reduction on LCFF. It could be only 5% of the reduction on LCFF. I don't know, but he's saying if the feds do give funds, that he will pass them on, a lot of it on to education. He also proposes that in the following years, that he would take an additional 1.5% from the general fund revenues up to $13 billion to supplement Prop 98 funding and for education. Now, what's interesting is he can't actually tie the hands of the legislature in the out years. So it's not a promise that he can keep by himself. He has to have buy-in for that. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how that's affecting Jefferson. So the top right number there, the $55 million, is the amount of money that right now the LCFF calculator is calculating us to receive for next year. Again, I got that yesterday morning. Last year, or the current year, 1920, you see off to the left here, we were receiving rounding $58 million in LCFF revenue. So then those numbers that you see below, we would, for getting COLA and then a 10% reduction, we lose over $5 million from that. And then the loss of declining enrollment protection, another $1 million. And so our decreased funding for next year is $6.2 million at this time in LCFF funding. Then I just show you the COLA. And then right underneath the COLA, see it says proration / deficit factor. Well, it used to be called deficit factor. They're not calling it that anymore. They're calling it a proration factor. And so what the proration factor has done in the LCFF calculator is it gives us the COLAs and then it increases the proration factor or deficit factor to take that COLA away. So anything it gives us, all those COLAs in those out years get taken away by the proration factor. And you see that $51,213,000 after next year, every year after that, that's the amount of money we get. So it ends up being, about $300,000 less than we'd be getting next year. This is why it's not only an L shape, but that L, the horizontal part of the L is much longer than the vertical part of the L. And this is where I'm feeling that the budget is very conservative. And if there's any kind of a U-shape economy recover at all, this 51 million that's going out year after year would go away and we would have funds coming back to us. So these numbers that I'm showing you and on the next page and such, for our multi-year projection and for the budget that we're putting into place, we have to use this $51 million in all those out years. And that is why it looks so bad. And that is what we have to prepare for. It may not happen, and I'm really hoping it doesn't. And I don't think it's going to happen for all those out years. But we have to build the budget based on those numbers. And that's why we eat our reserves. And so the following slides, our budget is based on a steady, following lines on this slide, is based on steady enrollment, but we have declining enrollment. And then it shows our unduplicated percentage. If you could please go to the next slide. So we do get an increase in special ed funding, and it's $360,000 ongoing. So that's good. And the PERS and STIRS reduction that the governor wants to redirect the $2.3 billion in would save us $875,000 in 2021 as well as in 21-22. And then we would go back up, we would lose that savings. We are also incorporating step and column. And right now, as you know, we are in negotiations with our bargaining, the AFT bargaining unit, and we'll be moving into it with CSCA as well. So any kind of agreement we make there is not included in the budget that we are putting together. And then as you see at the bottom part of the slide, there is the possibility of additional revenues. And so there is that $4.4 billion that the governor wants to pass on to education. We would get approximately $4.3 million of one-time funds next year based on that. And these funds have to be spent by December 30th of this year. But it is not likely that those funds are going to come to us this way, because the only districts that are getting those funds are districts that get concentration grant funds. We get concentration grant funds because our unduplicated percent is above 55%. So if our unduplicated percent was 54%, we wouldn't get a dime. The governor would not give us a dime. But because it's above 55% or 55% and higher, we would get $4.3 million. And so the legislature does not like the way these funds are being given out. And I can understand that, because any district that does that has less than 55% unduplicated percentage would get no funds at all. So it is not likely that we would see the funds in this manner. I do think we will see some funds. I don't know how much it'll be. Maybe it's $2 million instead. But I want to let you know that the budget we're putting together now does not include any of these funds here, the 4.3 million. So as that comes in like I said, the legislature, we don't know what they're going to do. But as it comes in, I expect that our budget will improve. And you'll be able to, and certainly our multi-year projections. So 1 year, it's 4.3 million. Maybe it will be 2. I don't know. And then the out years, if the governor wants to try to give us more funding, as he said, equal to 1.5% of the general fund revenues, this is a real guess. I'm estimating somewhere between 1.7 to $2 million in those out years. So it is possible that we get somewhere maybe 2 million next year and maybe $1.5 million in the out years. And I just want you to remember, in our multi-year projection and in our next year's budget, none of these funds are being included right now. And if we did include it, we would have to show what we would do if we lost those funds. So that's why we're not including them right now. Next slide, please. Oh, actually, if you can just go back, I'm sorry. I did want to share with you that based on the information that I have showed you and the flat funding of the LCFF at $51 million, our next year's deficit spending will be $5.7 million. The following year will be $6.7 million. The year after that would be $8.9 million. And the year after that would be $9.5 million. So we would have to use all of our reserves. If this is the scenario that happened, if we got none of these $4.3 million and those out year dollars, if we got none of them and that L shape did not improve, and we really got only the $51 million a year, which I seriously doubt, we would use up all of our reserves after the 21-22 year. And we would not have enough reserves to pay for our expenditures in 22-23, and we would not have enough reserves to have a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty in 22-23. That's what the budget is going to show. So we are going to have to show at this point $3.4 million of reductions in the 22-23 year in order to meet our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. Now, mind you, everything is uncertain right now, particularly what budget will be passed. And so these additional funds that are listed at the bottom that are not being included in the multi-year projection in next year's budget as well, the 2021 budget, as well as a multi-year projection, these funds will greatly change our ability to have our reserve for economic uncertainty be supported. It's still going to be supported by our reserves, but we still need to make reductions, but we would be able to meet our reserve for economic uncertainty with the proposed budget. And so now next slide, please. So here are concerns and considerations, right? What we have from the May revise is everything that we are being given to determine, to build our next year's budget from. We do not have a choice of building our next year's budget on something else. All the information has been provided to us. The problem is that the governor and the legislature are going to adopt a budget without even knowing what our tax revenues are going to be. Because as you know, the deadline for filing the 2019 taxes was moved from April 15th to July 15th. So they are going to be adopting a budget with a guesstimate as to what our revenues are going to be. And so it's highly likely that they will be coming back in July and redetermining what our revenues, what the budget is going to look like. They're going to perhaps revise the state budget, which we would revise our budget accordingly. Again, the federal government may pass some acts that cause a trigger off for education. And so we would then get more money or have reduced cuts. And then also, what kind of flexibility will the state provide us in spending flexibility for expenditures in the school year, in ADA protection? There is there's a bill out there or proposal out there to allow us to have the declining enrollment protection for an additional year. That alone would give us $1 million. And then finally, the coronavirus isn't done yet. We're not even out of shelter in place yet, really. And we don't know what might happen in the fall. And so it's health and a fiscal crisis that we're dealing with. And there's a lot of unknown right now. And so the budget that we'll be presenting to you at the next board meeting is very glum, but I really have a hard time believing it could be any more conservative than what it already is. But we're not going to really know that if it's a L shape or a U shape recession until we start coming out of it. So can I answer any questions for you? And I can't see any faces, and I don't know if you can see my face anywhere, but all I can see is my slides. Oh, I'm sorry, next steps. There is one more slide. Next steps is what it always is. We'll be bringing the budget to you. The budget has to be adopted before June 30th. And we'll be bringing it to you on June 17th, which will be 2 days after the legislature should be proposing or giving the budget to the governor for either approval or not. And so there'll be a public hearing. And also for the COVID-19 operations written report that was pulled off the agenda today. And then the board needs to approve adopt a budget, and the state will then adopt theirs, and we will change ours in accordance with to what they have come out with. And hopefully they will come out with something that allows us to recognize some of those revenues that we are not recognizing in this budget. And as you know, there is no LCAP for this budget to support. So the next slide is just questions.
All right, any questions, board members?
No.
No.
Ms. Kessler, thank you for the presentation. I have a question for you in regards to the budget that you are currently working on and planning to present at the next meeting.
Yes.
Are there any things that you can share that's sort of been more subtle than other stuff in the budget that you're working on so far regarding the current year, as well as any of the outgoing years as well?
Is there anything I can share? Well, again, the most important part is that it is going to be very conservative, which means that it's going to look very bad. We do have to determine the way it's built. We do have to provide the county with our plan for the third year out, where we will not meet our reserve for economic uncertainty. And if it didn't change, if it doesn't get better because of the actual state budget that's adopted or by reductions that we're making, we will not have a positive certification in our first interim. We will have some carryover, but where we normally have a much greater carryover than expected, we have reduced that. We had to reduce it in order to try to reduce our expenditures so that our out years wouldn't be as bad, because our out years will be built on our current year and fund balance. And so if we felt that we were not going to spend things this year, we need to remove those. Otherwise, our end fund balance will look worse than it really will be. And we need all of the end fund balance we can have to go into the next budget and our multi-year projection. I really, honestly, it's what the legislature does. And it's these $4.3 million that we're not including in next year's budget, which again is not likely to be 4.3 million, but there's likely to be something there. And hopefully with as few restrictions as possible. I can't give
one
you...
of the things that we institute, Mr. Koo, to answer your question, was we did ask all departments and all school sites to reduce their budgets for next year by at least 10%, because we know that money is not even going to come in at least 10%. It's really difficult to reduce personnel at this time of year. We went into shelter in place on March 13th, and the deadline to notify personnel of not coming back was March 15th. So we didn't really have any time to plan for certificated. And so what we're trying to do is through negotiations, try to see if there's any cost savings that the district could achieve that way, so that school site budgets there, which is equivalent to personnel, don't have to be reduced. And we need to consider something like an August layoff window, which I would be one of our last choices. But anyway, those are the kinds of things that we're able to do. I think we would know more by June 17th, what our next steps would be. Specifically, we were going to ask school sites to reduce their budgets by even further. That would cause some folks to be reassigned back to the classroom. Therefore, some of our classroom teachers to necessitate being laid off if we don't have any retirements or anything like that.
Bernie, I have a question. Aren't we supposed to be notifying our employees legally, was it March?
I can
And
answer
then-
that question too.
Yes, and we did. We met all those requirements. However, when the budget doesn't come in at a certain level, there is a window that opens up. That's called the August layoff window, which this year all the conditions seem to point to that it will be met. It needs to have a minimum of 2% COLA in the budget in order for it not to open. And this year, we're not going to meet that. In fact, we're going down by 10%. So.
Can we get some of that sent to all of us in writing?
Oh, yes, of course.
Because it's a lot to hear it just at a meeting. I've been through this for how many years?
Yeah.
So I know when we had some bad times, what we had to do.
Yeah, no, all of this it's like a big meal that we're asking you to eat right now. And we sort of have to be like a cow and just digest it and come back and chew a little bit more and digest it. So we'll be getting more information.
Because my feeling is that there's going to, there should be,
major decision.
I'm sorry, it should be something that we can decide as a board, other areas that we would cut before we'd cut an employee.
That is correct. That is a board decision. So
And I think we need to be aware, since we're hearing all this now, we need to be aware and start planning to ourselves the importance of what we need to do.
Yeah, so we will be able to do that. We have, the window doesn't open up until the budget is signed. And we don't know
5 days after,
yeah, 5 days after it's signed, and it'll be signed somewhere between June 20th and sometimes even into July. So we'll certainly let you know, and we'll be providing information as it comes. Again, none of us want reductions in staff.
Oh yeah, no.
And that's not our choice. We would prefer to find it in other places, and I believe we have capacity to do so.
And I'd like to add as well, unfortunately, the governor could suspend that layoff period as well. So we have that window, and the governor or legislature could do that. Also, that 10% reduction to the school sites is already budgeted into the budget that we're going to be bringing to you. So it's not an additional reduction in the information I gave you, but we could go further if we have.
Yeah, that's just to answer Mr. Ku's question about what's going to be in the budget that we've already tried to reduce.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing this, and I just want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. Are you saying that it's the rule about having to notify employees by a certain date is not going to happen?
Okay, so
I really don't understand that.
Because if we do not get at least 2% additional funding in COLA, then a new layoff window opens up that starts 5 days after the passing of the budget. So it's a new layoff window. The governor can choose to suspend that window and not allow layoffs. We don't know what's going to happen.
I've never heard of that in all the years I've been on the school board.
Yeah, it's only been
That's
brought
really
into effect.
unusual.
It's only been brought into effect 3 or 4 times in the last 30 years or so, and 2 of those times, at least, the governor suspended it. So they were not. It was not an option.
So give me the dates on those.
Sure, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah,
I'll send it
because
tomorrow.
That's been the biggest mistake sometimes with the districts, is that we don't find out, what the budget's going to be, and it's past the date allowed to make some changes.
All right, I just want to mention that for right now, we're fine though, that our budget is in place for next year, and we're not talking about anything drastic happening right now.
We do not have to do anything drastic for this coming year, but we do have to have something that is in a plan, at least, for how we expect to meet the reserve for economic uncertainty in the 22-23 year, because at that point we would run out of reserves all of the reserves to be able to cover the reserve for economic uncertainty. We would be $3.4 million short of being able to cover that.
And aren't we supposed to have, at least I thought that's what they told us not too long, a few years back, we're supposed to have a budget for 3 years ahead.
Well, that's it. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So I mean,
we
gotta,
wouldn't be able, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to make sure that whatever we're planning is going to sustain us for 3 years, or we're going to have problems. So it's not just 1 year. It's got to be 3 years.
Exactly. It's a 22-23 year that we have to continue to be able to maintain a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty.
Exactly.
And at this point, we will be shy of that by $3,400,000.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I get all of that into this. It's not that we're not sitting absolutely perfect right now, that there could be this thing coming down the road. So
okay, I just want to say that we're not, because we're spending a lot of time right now talking about the dates of letting teachers know that they're not coming back. So I don't want us to keep going down that road right now when that's not the situation that we're in right now.
Okay.
So are there any other questions about the May budget revision?
Okay.
So I was going to thank Ms. Vidales for the update in terms of sort of what the district's doing and some of those kind of ask of like departments to sort of kind of make reductions now, anticipating sort of the outgoing budget concerns. I guess I was going to ask Mr. Vidales, is it possible for like in a future meeting, I know that we get stipends, is there a way that we could potentially suspend those stipends at least temporarily, just so that even if that kind of small impact does help prevent a layoff or prevent further cuts along the way, that we can at least take action in that capacity?
Yes, it's again, I can discuss that with Mr. Ali. I'll take some notes about if we could bring that to the board for consideration and for action. The board has done that in the past. Certainly in the Great Recession, the board did reduce their stipends for a period of time. So that's something that the board can consider to do again.
Cool, thank you.
Well, you will only be paying for four board members, because I'm not taking mine anymore.
Yeah, Mrs. Brizuela has.
I'm free.
has freed herself from stipends.
Nothing.
So.
All right, thanks, Ms. Kessler.
Certainly.
Item 12, classified personnel retirement. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request from the following classified employee and requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending employees with 10 or more years of service with the district. Alan M. Burns, instructional assistant, JFK, effective 6/13/2020, date of hire 3/01/1976.
Yeah, if I could just say a couple of things. I worked with Miss Burns when I was a teacher over at John F. Kennedy, and she's a fantastic colleague. And this year she made her decision towards the end of the year to put in her retirement. I just wanted to just wish her the best of luck and thank her for all her years of service to JFK in the district.
Thank you.
I'll
very
second
much.
that. No.
All right. So would you like to make the motion then, Ms. Brizuela?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the retirement and to prepare a resolution for Jacqueline Burns, an instructional aide, effective June 13th, 2020. And to make sure that we give her a really nice resolution. She is a wonderful employee. I know that for all the time that I've talked with them. So that's it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh,
Aye.
thumbs up.
Yep. 4 unanimous. Just to remind everybody, the thumbs up is just so that we can make sure that our secretary, the superintendent secretary, gets everything correctly noted.
Yep. Okay. Now, Christine.
Moving on right along to item number 13, governance team member comments, report, and board meeting reflection. And we'll start off with Mr. Vidal.
So I focused on the guideline that says work toward the future, learning from the past. We made it through the Great Recession in 2008 through 2014. And a lot of the same strategies that we utilized then, we're going to have to call upon to help make it through this time. So that's was what I focused on today.
Mr. Koo.
For me, I selected we will keep our focus on the best interest of our students. And I also wanted to give an update. At the last meeting, I mentioned that I was attending the CSBA Delegate Assembly meeting. So in terms, just want to give like a quick report of what was discussed. A couple key items that was discussed. The first one was there was a discussion regarding whether CSBA should endorse the schools and communities first ballot initiative. That is a Prop 13 ballot initiative on the November ballot that would raise between, let me try to see, $2.6 and $4.6 billion for education in California. After long discussions from all sides on delegates from across the state, it was decided that the delegates decided to take no action, understanding primarily the focus on the current economic landscape and trying to do the balance between higher taxes and sort of funding education. So there was a no endorsement taken on that issue. Additionally, CSB gave an update on the May revised report. So I'm not going to repeat what was said because Ms. Kessler gave a great update already. It's pretty similar. In terms of some of the stuff I was going to mention, CSB gave us an update regarding some of their communication efforts related to COVID-19 and sort of helping schools and families and students. They've been talking about engaging with the governor as well as Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, regarding grading, assessments, graduations, and distance learning technology. They were trying to fine tune that and will give us some additional updates and reports as that gets sort of more finalized. Kind of working with school districts to understand how best to support local districts regarding COVID-19 issues in terms of classroom as well as outside of classroom as well too. Sort of kind of advocating for increased broadband access for underserved communities across California that have more limited access for education. CSB also created an advocacy tool website regarding COVID-19, csba.org/coronavirus. It's a sort of a resource tool for resources, emails, letters, and resolutions that board members and the community can send out to elected officials. And they've also been hosting weekly CSB webinars regarding a variety of topics, from special education to how to abide to the Brown Act in sort of remote meetings to supporting student mental health and sort of May revision update. So just quite a wide variety of topics. And then lastly, they also gave an update regarding CSBA's annual education conference. It is still scheduled to take place this December 3rd to 5th in Anaheim, and registration starts on Tuesday, June 9th, and registration is available for both virtual and in-person attendance at the convention. That's my update for CSBA Delegate Assembly meeting.
All right, thanks. Ms. Brizuela?
Yes, I focus on in the best talking in the best interest of our students, and I think we did that also. I just wanted to say that I want to work really hard on making sure that we're going to be able to make it through all this that's coming, what's going down for us. And I think we're in a good place, but at the same time, it's hurting right now that the children are not able, our students are not able to be in class. And as much as we talk about virtual and being on the computer and all this and that, or it's not the same as being in the classroom. So I hope that whatever we do, it's going to be able to bring back our students into the classroom where they can really feel like they're a part of something. And for all the graduating students, whether it's going from elementary to junior high or from junior high to be able to graduate to go on to the high school, I support them. I respect that they're wonderful students, and to tell the families that they are the best and we're proud of them, and that they one day will be able to get through all this and get back to normal, and that as much as we can is a send out to how great they are. I know that there's been a lot of things that some of the schools have done, and I hope that we can find another way for how we can help our students feel really good about themselves and be proud of what they're doing. Let's see, there was something else I was going to tell you. We had so much tonight. Anyway, what I want to make sure we do is that we really look at our budget and really plan to be the best we can be. And if we have to make cuts away from the kids, away from the schools, and not touching our teachers, we need to be able to just not spend too foolishly and make sure that we pay for the most important thing, the children, the teachers, and anybody that's not just teachers, anybody that's with the children, even the teacher aides, the people that are in the cafeteria. We have to look at everybody as part of, this is what we are together. I'm sorry, I'm using my hands. I don't know if you can see it or not, but we're one big circle and everybody is important. If we don't give a raise, but we keep our employees, then that's what we need to do. But that's not saying we're not going to do that, but I want us to be sure that nobody gets cut. Nobody. Because a child needs help from every single person that's in the school system. Okay, enough of that. I'll move on.
All right, Ms. Manio.
Yes, I actually share the same sentiment as Trustee Bruzuela, that I chose that we keep the best interest of our students at heart when we do these meetings. We have to handle some really big responsibilities this coming school year and what direction we're going to take. And, you know, we take on that role readily. It is a heavy weight on our shoulders, but I would like for this board and the cabinet to treat this as an opportunity to be a lot more calculated, to be more streamlined, and to do everything, of course, in the best interest of our students, of our families and communities, and of course our teachers. And I just want to say thank you to my fellow board members and the cabinet as well for writing out the rest of this school year together. And I hope that, you know, Godspeed for next school year. We're going to make it and we're going to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manio. And I also, I guess, focused on the same guideline, which is keeping our focus on the best interest of the students. And I actually, listening to you, Ms. Manio, I actually wanted to mention a quote that I read that said, "Excellent educators see possibilities where others see problems." Saying that we can use this as an opportunity to streamline and to sharpen our sword, so to speak. And I know that's the spirit that Ms. Brizuela is bringing tonight, is that there's always room for improvement. So with that, I don't believe we have any persons wishing to address the board on closed session items. And tonight we will close in memory of Richard Alioto, husband of Cheryl Alioto, food service assistant at Benjamin Franklin Intermediate School. So we'll have a short moment of silence in honor of Mr. Alioto, and then we'll have a 5-minute break and convene to close session. Meeting adjourned.
See you at 9:42.